Pittsburgh Steelers fans, it is time for another episode of Tales from 2 a.m. Look at your clock. It doesn't matter what time zone you're in. It's 2 a.m. somewhere. Where I am right now in the state of Maryland, it is 9:03 a.m. Eastern time. So you might say, why is this show called Tales from 2 a.m.? It's not 2 in the morning. Well, 2 a.m. is more of a state of mind from yesteryear, and that's how I live my life, which makes you wonder, Bad, how do you get through change? Well, if you're in Steeler Nation, you've dealt with a lot of change in just the last 6 months. In fact, there was a lot of change this week alone, with not only David DeCastro departing the team, and with the Steelers for the second consecutive year announcing that they are not going to have training camp at St. Vincent College in Latrobe. So dealing with change is a big thing. Some of us, like this guy, like the old man shaking fist at clouds, like Jeff Hartman always addresses me as, sometimes change is hard. But as Steeler fans, we've got to deal with it. We've got to move on. But it's hard for us to not hold on to Franco and Jack Lambert and the Immaculate Reception and the Myron Cope days and Jack Fleming and all of that. So that's something we're going to discuss today. But we are going to discuss the news of the week as well. And I want to thank anybody here that is coming in for the first time, or anyone here on Facebook or YouTube that is with us all the time. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you are spending a summer day in June with me on a Sunday morning, I appreciate you. That means you bleed black and gold. If this is later on in the week and you're driving in your car and you have us on any of our podcast platforms, that's a big deal to me as well. So thank you so much. Not just because I read your name in the live chat like I'm going to with Michael O'Malley saying, "What up, Bad?" Michael, thanks for coming in. One of our regulars here on the show. We appreciate the first one in, Michael O'Malley, today. So a lot of the time on the show in the live chat, the guys and gals of BTSC Nation, what did I name them? What did they name themselves? Bad Company. When Bad Company is in the house, they always want to announce who's first in. So Michael O'Malley wins this morning. Justin Rock's on the show. Carl Young Conley Jr. says, "Good morning. It's great to have you all in here." So that's what it is. It's Tales from 2 a.m. You guys are members of Bad Company. Are we going to let that stick? Is that cool? Are we going to do Bad Company? Because Jeff Hartman, and kind of jealous of Jeff Hartman. He's got the ride or die crew. So are we hashtag Bad Company? I don't know. If you come up with something better, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, that's a good idea. I might have a really hard time with this name, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Let's bring it up here. Manalai Kaletsu. And if you want to put it in phonetically, that would work too. Do you think we're going to sign Malik Hooker or Richard Sherman? Very interesting thing, and that's something we're going to get to as a part of change. So let me say this. The Steelers now have money burning a hole in their pocket. It's a lot like my daughter. My daughter is 12 years old. She gets birthday money. She worked for an ice cream truck to fill in to help out a family friend. And the money was burning in her pocket. I mean, it was painful to watch as she would just walk and go, "Oh, I've got money in my pocket. I've got to spend it." As Steeler Nation, we find that there's 13.1 approximate dollars now over the cap, which is something that, that kind of fluctuates. And you've got to, the rookies have been signed. That's cool. But you've got to look at some other things. So you always want to keep some rainy day money in there too, as Kevin Colbert does. But a lot of people are saying, all right, who are we signing next? David DeCastro is gone. Trey Turner only cost $3 million. So there's more money in there, burning a hole in the pocket, not of the Steelers, but of Steeler Nation. So that is a good question. They've got some depth issues. And you know the depth issues that they have, especially in the defensive backfield. Malik Hooker is a guy who was at the facility just a couple weeks ago. He's a guy that you could bring in at safety. He's had some injury problems, but remember, anybody that's on the market in late June in the NFL with camp starting in July, with camp less than a month away for the Steelers, there's going to be some baggage. If somebody's available right now, it's going to be buyer beware for the team that picks them up. They could be on the older end, on the bad side of 30, maybe. They could have had, like Hooker, they could have some injury concerns. There's so many things that could be. Jerry Cherry's in the show. Brian Brown, too. Good to see you guys. Appreciate that. There could be injury concerns. They could have some, baggage. They could spend way too much time at the Beehive. That's a possibility, too. As Carl Young says, Sherman does have some years on him. Would he be valuable on a one-year contract? Because it seems like one-year contracts are the way teams are going. The Steelers are embracing the one-year prove-it deal right now. And I think with anybody that you pick up now, this far after the draft, this close to the regular season, you're going to only want to give them a prove-it deal, a one-year deal, and see how they do. And the thing is, it's a gamble. Everything's a crapshoot. If they do well, you know what happens. Other teams are going to seek out their services. But maybe Richard Sherman comes in for a year and helps solidify that defensive backfield. You just don't know. I would love to know the truth. Are they happy with what they have at defensive back? Or is it a situation right now where they're like, you know what? We're going to wait for the right thing to come along, but we're going to vet these players. I've heard a lot of people say about the whole Trey Turner signing that Trey Turner was a reactionary move. Really wasn't. The thing about Trey Turner is he was in a week ago. Bringing him in might have sped up the process with David DeCastro. They had 6 days since the time that they brought in Mr. Turner to decide and vet him, to decide whether he was going to be valuable for this team. Michael O'Malley says, Sherman for a one-year deal, I can dig it. Yeah. You don't lose anything on a one-year deal. $3 million for Trey Turner, you don't lose anything on that guy. If you're Richard Sherman, people might say, hey, Sherman's not going to sign for $3 million. Why wouldn't he? Nobody signed him. So it's 0 or $3 million. Or wait until someone's desperate. And guess what? If they're even more desperate at the beginning of the season, somebody gets hurt in camp, they don't have the money to throw at you either. So those are some of the things to think about. The thing about money burning holes in your pocket, that doesn't mean that this team has to go out and spend it on a question mark. What if they go out and spend it on a known commodity? And now you're going to say, Brian, what known commodities are there out there? Yeah, they're right in front of your face. It's Minkah Fitzpatrick. It's TJ Watt. Those guys need new contracts soon. There's other guys that need new contracts soon. Could there be extensions that actually probably help put more money in the salary cap, under the cap? There could be, they might try to wrap up the future now with some of this money too. Now look, I'm not the dollars and cents guy that BTSC editor Dave Schofield is. I'm not. He's great at that. And he's the guy that will let me know whether I'm right or wrong on that. And that's what I love about him, because I need to be set straight with that. But I think you might want to look towards the future now to not have question marks about TJ Watt. So pay those guys. Hashtag pay Fitz. Hashtag pay TJ. Hashtag pay Kyle. Yep, Kyle Schofield, I got you. Michael O'Malley wants to know about a known commodity like Barry. There's junk bonds in there too, you know. I'm not as low on Mr. Barry as some of my cohorts here at BTSC. There's one I can't remember which. He's so anonymous about it. He doesn't like to say it, but there's one certain senior editor at BTSC that for some I can't remember his name, but I don't think he's high on Jordan Berry for some reason. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask Jeff Hartman if he knows who that is. I'm not sure. So what are your thoughts about this week? I want to get back to Trey Turner. What else are you going to get? It's June. Who are you going to come in to be a right guard? He's got 5 Pro Bowls under his belt. Now, sure, Pro Bowl is a popularity contest. You've got to be good to be in that popularity contest. Tim Tebow's not going to the Pro Bowl just because he's Tim Tebow and he's popular. You've got to be good. Trey Turner has shown that he's good. He gets traded for Russell Okung. And the next thing you know, he doesn't have a good year. That entire offensive line was pretty bad in the Los Angeles for the Chargers last year. So to me, the Trey Turner signing, it's not about money and saving money under the cap. They got this guy at a bargain. I like how Brian Brown says that Turner has a nasty streak. And Michael O'Malley says Moses was the other choice and the Jets got him. I didn't see the money on Moses, but I think that Morgan Moses probably went for a little more money, going from the Washington football team to the Jets, and he being a tackle. I think one thing they really wanted to address was guard and address that right away. So you bring in a guard. Sure, he's a question mark. I think that the Steelers are really excited about Adrian Clem. The players are excited about Adrian Clem. I have a feeling that he is going to be a guy that we revere. Maybe not a Mike Munchak, but maybe pretty close. You know, that would be a good thing. But I think he can make magic with this offensive line. I think Matt Canada's going to help with this offensive line because scheme has a lot to do with it as well. But if you look at this offensive line, think about the 2019 offensive line. Who did you have on that offensive line? You had Matt Filer, a tackle, David DeCastro, Marquise Pouncey, Ramon Foster, and Alejandro Villanueva. They're gone. Not a single one of those guys left. We've been talking since 2019, even in 2020, man, this offensive line is long in the tooth. We've got to get younger. Now look at the possible offensive line for the Steelers. Let's start with left tackle. At left tackle, Chuks Okorafor. He's going into his 4th year. You might not love what he brings, but he's been a little bit of a constant for this team. He's had a lot of experience, a lot of playing time, and he has not been the guy that you pull out in film and say, okay, this is the weak link. Now going to left tackle, that could change things. Who knows? At left guard, you have a guy that everybody's excited about. Kevin Dotson. Can he keep up that momentum? He's being looked at right now as being the guy on the offensive line. He's the superstar on the line right now. At center, we don't know what we have yet. Because you have B.J. Finney and Kendrick Green just finally signed his deal, 3rd rounder out of Illinois, keep in mind that he spent a lot of time at guard. And there's been talk, well, why don't you just start him at guard and start Finney at center? Well, Trey Turner's in there. Now, if he falters, you could do that. That's all well and good. But I think you're better off seeing what you have in training camp at center. If Finney has to start and Green has to get some more seasoning, okay, I get it. Finney at least could do that. Now, if Green is good enough to start, then you wouldn't want to start him at guard. You want to start your future at center with Kendrick Green. So if everything goes the Steelers' way, you start with Green, and that would be great. Say Turner goes well, and I'm going to pencil in Turner. That means Finney could be a quality backup at center and guard, and that's what you want. That's what you were hoping when Stefan Wisniewski, came in to fill in for Mr. Finney when he left. Then at right tackle, you've got a guy that I'm excited about, a guy that's going into, I believe, his 5th season, Zach Banner. Zach Banner has another 2 years. He's a very good run blocker. He is not a bad, in fact, I think he's a good pass blocker. I think you're going to see a lot of Zach Banner too. But there's so many ifs when you talk about the Steelers' offensive line. That's the biggest if. I mean, you want storyline. Offensive line is now your number one storyline. Let's go ahead and bring up Dave Shipley. Dave Shipley, $5. Good morning, Bad. Finally got the prints. He's sending me something in the mail. That's really awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the gift, Dave. It's not necessary. Thank you for the $5 in the live chat and the super chat. I appreciate it. Speaking of super chat, I want to bring up this guy, Snowman. I missed one of Snow's super chats last week, and I was getting some rips, not from Snowman, but I was getting some rips on Touchdown Under maybe a week and a half ago. And a little over a week ago. And Snowman came to my aid, and I appreciate it. Snowman's my buddy. He said, yeah, but sometimes he misses super chats. So if I ever miss your super chat, just remind me. I've got this adult ADHD going. So I go to, my daughter was having some anxiety when she was in the 4th grade. And so there was this school counselor that wanted to talk to us about her anxiety and was talking to her. And she was having trouble sleeping at night and stuff like that. And I go in for the meeting, and I'm wearing my business suit because I was at work, and I come in and my wife's there, and we're talking, and I'm doing the best I can. Apparently I'm all over the place. And the woman looks at me and says, I think you have attention deficit disorder and not your daughter. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought I was that guy. Now I watch some of my shows, and I'm all over the place and tangents and everything. I'm like, maybe I do. So I guess I do. So sometimes me trying to go ahead and read the live chat and go ahead and do the show and run the show as well, I kind of mess up. And I admit that. So I appreciate it. Speaking of tangents, I want to bring up another guy. I'm not even reading his live chat. I just want to bring up this guy. He is responsible for one of the greatest tangents in BTSC podcast history, my man Jerry Aldeans. So I really haven't had a chance to read his quote. We'll read his quote. TJ great in regular season, but is it worth paying 20 plus to a guy who had 1 tackle versus the Clowns in the playoff and invisible in the Jacksonville playoff game? He was a rookie in the Jacksonville playoff game. Will his body break down eventually like his brother? You still got to pay. You got to pay him. That's the thing. He's your closest thing to a superstar. That he's in 2-3 years, he breaks the all-time Steelers sack record, possibly. So that's the thing. But the reason I bring up Jerry Aldeans is he brought up the fact that I'm from Johnstown, and he brought up an establishment called the Beehive that led to one of the most fun podcasts that we've ever had. I've never seen. I mean, Jeff Hartman, Dave Schofield, and myself, we were laughing until we started to cry. So That's great. I want to bring up Ron Chess here, and Ron Chess is echoing something that I've been talking about. I talked about this on the preview the other night. I've been talking about this for a long time. Bad good morning. 2008 offensive line had a lot of questions. Willie Colon, Justin Hartwig, Kiyomi Atu. I have problems with that. Kimo Iatu. There you go. One Super Bowl with this line. Younger legs, drive blocking. Hey, think about this. You had Max Starks on that team. Marvell Smith was hurt and hardly played on that team. You had Darnell Stapleton on that line as well. And they won a Super Bowl with it. So I think that's important. A lot of similarities between that 2008 team and this team. One similarity is, who did they pick in the first round that year? A running back. Last time they picked a running back in the first round, they picked Rashard Mendenhall. Now, let's hope that the same thing doesn't happen with Najee Harris, that he gets knocked out. And okay, Jerry, you're gonna start. Jerry's gonna start a tangent again, and I can't do it this time. But watch your phone. That's all I gotta say. With Sapphire, but Sapphire is a superstar too, so maybe we should throw a contract at her. I hope she's a her. I don't know. But yeah. Hopefully that he's not going to spout off, and then the Ravens are going to go ahead and put a bounty on him and knock him out with a broken jaw for the season in Week 4. Steelers also had the toughest schedule in the league in 2008. They have the toughest schedule in the league in 2021. But so did the Ravens. The Ravens had the second toughest schedule in the league, and they went to the AFC Championship game that year. Could we have a repeat of that? There's a lot of similarities. This line, there's similarities. So a lot of excitement with both teams. Excuse me, when I say both teams, I'm saying 2008, 2021. If you get the bottom line, you get a win in the Super Bowl, that's awesome. So I love it. I definitely love it. So this is what I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and take a break. And we are going to talk about change and dealing with change as Steelers fans. I don't do it well. Remember, Jeff calls me the old man shaking fist at clouds. So we'll talk about that when we come back. So stick around. Download part 2. If you're on our podcast platforms, anywhere you download your favorite podcast, that's great. Hey, guys, you want to help us out at BTSC? Just download our shows on the audio side. That's what helps us out too. Really does. That's where we make our salaries. I'll be honest with you on that. So if you're here on Facebook or YouTube, just take a stretch. I'm going to be back before you can say the entire lineup from the 2008 Pittsburgh Steelers championship team. Stick around. Okay, welcome back to Tales from 2 a.m. If you're up to the K's in that 2008 lineup and you've got Jeremy Capanos, I applaud you. He was on that team as well. Here we go. We're getting a lot of Beehive comments. Love that. Oh gosh, it's a lot of fun. So hey, appreciate everybody being here on Tales from 2 a.m. It's Sunday morning where I am. Whatever time of day it is, you're dedicating 40 minutes to an hour of your life with us. I appreciate it. And I also want to harken back to last week too. I want to thank everybody that was in the live chat that complimented my dad. We even had somebody saying, hey, fired bad and bring in bad dad. I appreciate it. That was my Father's Day gift to my dad. And he messaged me afterwards and said, Bryan, that was the greatest gift ever to be on the show. And I'll come in the show anytime. So dad wants to come back on the show. He's excited. I think he really wants my job now. I really think he wants to take over Tales from 2 a.m. We'll call it Tales from 1965. How about that? Love you, Dad. I mean, but I gotta say, the way you treated my dad and my family on that Father's Day show meant a lot to me. So thank you so very much. Let's talk about change. Change is tough on me. And if you look at the title of this show, it's called Wading Through the Contest. Excuse me, Wading Through the Oh my gosh. Man, I'm getting killed. Here, let's go to a super chat here. Dave Shipley, Bad and Dad, please, loved it. $5. Thank you so much, Dave Shipley. Means a lot. No one you know says your dad was an awesome man. So I appreciate it. It's my dad bought me a lawnmower for Father's Day. I gave him a show. He gives me a lawnmower. I think that's pretty awesome. A new lawnmower. I mean, wow. Now I feel like even less of a son, man. I put a camera on you and say, all right, here you go. He gives me a Toro, which is awesome. So here's the thing. Wading through the constant that is change. Man, why did I wrote the title? Why am I having trouble with that? I love the show The Big Bang Theory. And on the last show, they Sheldon and Amy win the Nobel Prize. And everything's changing for Sheldon. And Penny says to him, she said, the only constant that we can count on is change. And things change. Everything changes. And it's how we roll with the changes. Let me give you a little REO Speedwagon there. Roll with the changes. How we do that. Cherry, I know you're going to love the REO Speedwagon reference. At least I hope so. How we roll with those is really how we're going to get through this 2021 season. There's change all around. Bud Dupree's gone. Can Alex Highsmith calm that change? Steven Nelson's gone. Can somebody from the outside, or James Pierre or Cam Sutton, calm that change? That's the question here. Ben Roethlisberger's getting older, and he's got a new system. He's got a brand new system to deal with. Matt Canada has his system that he knows. He needs to adapt it to Ben Roethlisberger. That's going to be change. But they're all professionals. So how they roll with this change is going to be the most important. I want to ask the live chat here, and you know how we do this. Okay, I've got to bring this up here. I love Felicia. Bad has an overactive brain that's studying going and a Netflix and chill mouth. I haven't figured out the concept of Netflix and chill yet. I hear it's pretty awesome. You know what? Yeah, I do have an overactive brain. Speaking of Netflix or whatever we're binging this on, my wife has decided that we are going to binge Sister Wives. And so I'm at season 8 of Sister Wives right now. And I was completely against the concept. Now I'm watching this. I'm like, no, I'm not. There's not going to be a lot of bad company. There's not going to be four new Mrs. Bads. No, one woman guy. That's the thing. She's not sharing me either for some reason. But I'm watching the show Sister Wives. And I'm like, wow. I can't handle one wife and 2 kids. And this guy's got 4 wives and 18 kids. And the kids are actually really cool kids. They've done a good job with these people. They're responsible children. But I'm watching this, and that's what we're binging right now. So if that's a Netflix and chill thing, I don't think I'm getting the chill part of it, but I guess that'll come. So, John Trent is somebody I really respect in the live chat. I respect a lot of people in the live chat. I want to bring up John Trent Constant change is bad. A lot of turnover from coaches to players is bad, but a long stretched out change is good. It shows you're consistent, you as an organization, 3 head coaches in our history. So that's, man, I'm so glad you brought that up. I don't know of any organization in the 4 major sports that has less than 6 or 7 head coaches since 1967. In fact, you'd be hard pressed to find less than 10. I'm sure they're out there, but I'm sure there's some, and we can go through and look. There's some because there's been some constant. But look at the Patriots. You might say, "Oh, Belichick's been there forever." Yeah, but how many guys? Rod Rust was there. Raymond Barry. You have Ron Earhart. There were a lot of coaches in between. So 3 coaches, that's great. That's when you roll out the change. So if you look at, I want to take John Trent's comment and say this. If you look at the fact that David DeCastro was here for a long time, Marquise Pouncey was here for a long time, Villanueva was here, since about 2014, but that's a long time in football years. That's not constant change, so that's a good thing. The problem with the change that we're dealing with right now is it's happening all at once. And that's something we're not used to. We're not used to it happening right away. Just boom. So this is a lot of fast change. Like Ramon Foster was here in 2019. So Filer was here, so because we're forgetting about Filer in this whole thing. Filer's gone too. So that's 4 starters on the offensive line gone since February. Is that when Pouncey left February? I could have been January, but I think it was February. So that's the thing. So John Trent, when you bring that up, I love it. Thank you. That helps me wade through this. So you're seeing a lot of change with the Steelers, but it's happening all at once. So it's overcoming that quick change, something we're just not used to. I'm going to bring up Dave Shipley, who gives me another $5. See, guys are easier than girls. If I bought my daughter or wife a vacuum, I'd get punched in the face. Well, my dad got me the lawnmower. So I've one year my wife got me, this was a long time ago, I complained about the Father's Day gift, and she brought it up the other day. It was like 11 years ago. She brought me like a plane so I can fix the door and something so I can organize tools. And I was like, that was a sucky gift. Now I feel really bad about it. I'll never do that again. But that's funny. So Brian Brown says my wife would kill the sister wife idea real fast. No, we're watching the show, but we're not emulating that. I don't know if I can get 3 other women to marry me actually either. So with my adult ADHD, I don't think that's going to be possible. I had to practically bribe this one to marry me. There you go. John C says Pounce and DeCastro leaving. It's tough. It is. If we had just Pouncey leaving and another 3 years in between for DeCastro to leave, then you're filling in one guy in that hole. My gosh, we're going to deal with the Ben Roethlisberger change in the next, could be next year, could be 2 years, could be 3 years, or Ben will just stick around forever until we kick him out. And I think that might happen too. So there's going to be change. If one organization can handle change, it's the Steelers. And the reason they do well, because they draft well. They are top 3, if not the best drafting team since the turn of the century. Kevin Colbert has a lot to do with it. when Kevin Colbert leaves, and that's going to be soon. They're going to have a plan to bring the right guy into. So that's one thing that makes this the most stable organization. But all this change at once, we're having trouble handling it. What is the toughest change since you've been a Steeler fan? Was it Terry Bradshaw leaving and you dealing with Mark Malone and Cliff Stout and David Woodley? Speaking of David Woodley, and not a lot of people remember the David Woodley thing. He was the guy that got thrown out of town when Dan Marino went to Miami. He started in the Super Bowl right before that. But the Steelers Retro Show, we go back to 1985. David Woodley was the quarterback. John Stallworth was still there. It was a great game. Check that out on the Steelers Retro Show. If you don't listen to the Steelers Retro Show on our audio-only podcast with Tony Defeo and myself, it's a fun one. Because if you remember these Steelers teams from yesteryear, they're a lot of fun. Ryan O'Toole says the decline of Polamalu and the Shazier injury was probably the toughest change that he's noticed. Some shoes are hard to fill. And I want to bring up, let me bring this up again. The Shazier injury is a great example of why the Trey Turner signing is so good. We had some people say, why don't you wait until the end of training camp to sign somebody? There could be someone else out there. Now, you need to have somebody in training camp. You need to have somebody getting to know the system early. We've seen that in the past. We're bringing guys in late. It takes them a while to develop. Vance McDonald came in very late. He needed time to develop. Now, towards the end of that 2017 season, he became one of Ben's guys, but he could have been one of Ben's guys a whole lot sooner if he was there at the beginning of training camp. But the reason I'm bringing up the Shazier injury, he was lost on December 4th of 2017. And that was a very promising season. We know all about that season. That completely killed that season. They still won some games after that, but it killed that season. And the reason it killed that season was because they did not have the proper depth to replace him. So the reason I'm saying this to the Trey Turner situation, bringing Trey Turner in, what happens if you wait, bring a guy in, and something happens? Then you've got a complete hole at right guard. You're at least filling it right now. You're changing the tire instead of trying to patch it up. And that's what they're doing. So that's really important. All they try to do is patch up the tire when Shazier went down. And because there's nobody out there. They couldn't bring anybody in at that time. It's impossible. Ron Chess says, my toughest has changed was watching the Super Steelers 70s all get old and retire. That's the problem. We all have to get old. Why do we all have to get old? That's the thing. I think one of the toughest changes for me, the toughest change has a lot to do with what Ron Chess just said, but watching players get old. And progress for me, I'm starting to become that guy, and I don't want to be that guy. But I love the days of 3 networks. We didn't even have the Fox network. Married with Children didn't come in until 1986. 21 Jump Street, those shows did not come in until 86. And we grew up with 3 networks. The reason my kids aren't into football and sports like I was is they have alternatives. One of my kids has streamed all 17 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. My son wants to be a doctor now because of Grey's Anatomy, which is awesome. But they can watch it. They don't have to watch what I'm watching. One of the reasons I'm a Steelers fan is I had to watch what my dad was watching. And I got into it. One of the reasons I became a Pirates fan, and I curse the fact that I'm a Pirates fan because they're the worst franchise in sports. But one of the reasons I became a fan is because WJAC in Johnstown, PA had the contract for Pirates games. So instead of watching Different Strokes and the Facts of Life on a Wednesday night when I was on Wednesday night, I was watching the Steelers take on the Phillies in Philadelphia because they played the road games. 81, almost 80 games a year, they were showing there's 81 road games back then. There was still 162 games back then. That's what was on. We were an NBC family. That's what was on. And it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome that we could watch those games. And that's how I found out who Pop Stargell and Omar Moreno and Phil Garner and even later years, Bobby Bonilla. And when I found out who those guys were, and I fell in love. I fell in love because Sundays meant the Steelers. And that was my routine. So the fact that things change, man, the fact that free agency came in and took the fact that the Steelers, who were always, you knew that these guys, those 70s teams players, they retired. Now free agency changes all that. Free agency is a good thing for the players. I'm not saying get rid of free agency. All I'm saying is that free agency changes things. They're not, baseball cards aren't 20 cents anymore a pack. You can't get a burger for 99 cents. Oh, you can with special promotion, but it's the one that they've had since Tuesday, and you're there on next Thursday. You know, you can't do it. Things are not, the mom and pop stores are gone for the most part. It's not me growing up in the 70s and 80s anymore. So these are not my same Steelers, and they've got to change. The problem is they're changing way too fast right now. They're changing all at once. And if I have to trust anybody to wade that sea change, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I absolutely love it. So I play trivia. You know how I play trivia, and Jerry Cherry brings up, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. That's from Popeye, and that was one of the trivia questions, and I got it because I knew exactly what that was. Wimpy from Popeye. So Michael O'Malley had a 15-inch in black and white with the dials. You know, yeah, things change. And change isn't bad. Change is inevitable. Change is our only constant. Things are going to change. And we've got to handle it. I've got to handle it. But the thing about it is, if you have an organization that knows how to change, then you're fine. And by signing Trey Turner, it's not your most ideal thing. He's not number one on anybody's list, but he's perfect on the list right now because he's the best chance. And that's what you got to do at this point. I'm going to wrap things up and say, hey, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody coming in to the live chat. If you're driving in your car and it's a couple days later, thank you so much for making BTSC a part of your lives. Remember all the great shows we have at BTSC, and we're going to have more shows. That new fall season is going to be incredible. On our audio only side, we are going to bring in more talent. And in fact, we're having Jeff Hartman and I are having a meeting tonight to talk to some of that new talent that is going to be coming in. And I am so excited that you're going to have more options for all Steelers all the time. So check us out. But don't forget about the Sco Bros and the boys down under. and the curtain call guys, the guys that know your enemy, that being Michael Beck and Jeffrey Benedict. And don't forget about me and Tony, the old men shaking fisted clouds. And now that we've recruited Shannon White into the bunch, don't forget about your preview gang, Jeff Hartman, Dave Schofield, and myself. Don't forget about all of us, and keep us in mind. If you're lonely, I promise you this. If you've got nothing to do and you're bored, go to iTunes or Spotify, type in BTSC Radio. You can even go back to 2016, 2017 when Jeff Hartman and I were doing the post-game show and we were doing the original Hangover together. So you could go back to just like last week if you want to hear one of our shows that you missed on the audio only side. Please do. It's great. I appreciate that. And all these great, man, I can't run them all down, so I'll just do them real quick. All these great comments. I love it. I appreciate all of you. So thank you so much. I don't think that our families are going to let Steven. I don't think our families are going to let us go scope out new talent at the Beehive. I just got a new phone, and I'm afraid that Sapphire might take that away. So I do appreciate all these comments, and whether I'm putting you up on the screen right now or not, I love you all, and I appreciate it. It is so great to have all of you in here. And as I'm just putting up a sample of comments up here, you guys are the best. So with that being said, I need you to do three things. I need you to be safe, as always. I need you to be true to yourself, because that's what we've got more than anything. We're individuals. If you can stay who you are, then I love you, because you're perfect the way you are. And the third thing, always be behind the steel curtain. So thank you so much. Bless you all. Bad loves you. Thank you, Bad Company. We'll see you next time on Tales from 2 a.m. from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com.